Welcome to another huge episode of Triggered. It's great to be back live in the studio. It's been a minute. I've been on the road basically for 2 months straight. A little bit of fun, a lot of work, but it's great to be back in studio with you guys because there's so much to cover, so much that we're going to get into. So we're going to get right into it. So guys, make sure that you're liking, sharing, subscribing so you never miss one of these major episodes. Remember, if you miss the show here on Rumble, you can head over to Apple, you can go to Spotify, you get it there. If your friends get their podcast that way, another great way to do it. Make sure you're sharing it. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're sending it to everyone and they do the same, okay? It's you guys who are the front line of defense against all of the insanity that we see, so we need you guys to continue to be a part of it. For all of the top headlines that we cover on the show, go over to my news app, MXM News, like minute by minute, MXM, where you can get the mainstream news without the mainstream bias. And of course, be sure to check out our sponsors, people who have the guts to support this program. Guys, we're going to be talking about making America healthy again. Did you know that 45% of the coffee you drink could be loaded with mold toxins? And even after roasting, these toxins can still be there. That's where 1775 coffee comes in. 1775 coffee is brewed to perfection, crafted with precision, and built on patriotism. All the beans are ethically and exclusively single sourced. That means you're getting quality coffee without the harmful toxins that you might find in other big corporate coffee chains. So visit 1775coffee.com, use code TRIGGERED, just like the name of the show, get 15% off your order. That's 1775coffee.com, promo code TRIGGERED. And also, guys, don't forget about the Birch Gold Group, where you can diversify your savings and protect your future. The Trump administration is moving fast to right all of the left's wrongs. But with all the damage we've seen the Democrats do, it's always smart to be prepared. And that's why thousands of Americans are buying gold now from the Birch Gold Group. Here are the facts. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 30%. And Birch Gold makes it extremely easy to convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Or you can even buy some gold to store in your home safe. Just text my name, Don Jr., D-O-N-J-R, to the number 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, only useful information. It's about learning more and educating yourself. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of protecting your savings today. Again, text my name, Don Jr., D-O-N-J-R, to the number 989898. So guys, let's now get into all of the top headlines. And to start, our government is actually open again. The air travel grid is getting back to normal, right before Thanksgiving, thank God. And Democrats are not trying to act like nothing ever happened. It's actually incredible how they can shut down the government for 40 days and then show up like it never happened. Just show up like, oh, hey, guys, what's happening? What's new? Hey. They do it all the time. Here's my father signing the continuing resolution, the CR, to get things back up and running.
Republicans never wanted a shutdown and voted 15 times for a clean continuation of funding. There's never been a time when one or the other party ever didn't sign a continuation. It's just a continuation, not a big deal. It's a continuation, and we'll talk later. Yet the extremists in the other party insisted on creating the longest government shutdown in American history, and they did it purely for political reasons.
For all the talk from Democrats about how, the adults, they're the adults. The adults are back in charge, folks. Remember that one under Biden? What a clown show and a joke that was. But for all of their talk, they continue to act more and more like kids, throwing a giant temper tantrum when they don't get their way. Everything they accuse us of doing, it's always what they're doing themselves. It's always projection, okay? Don't believe me? Here's Stephen Miller putting into perspective just what they're dealing with on Capitol Hill each and every day.
Well, look, you've really been exactly right on tonight when you said this is all about Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries being terrified of the Mondami wing, the AOC wing of the Democrat Party, understanding that they're not in control of anything anymore. It is a communist party. Is it an America Last party? It is a party that puts illegals over citizens, criminals over cops, cheaters over hardworking taxpayers at every level. This shutdown was an example of just how little the Democrats care about Americans. They forced our national security workers to go without pay. They forced Americans to be stuck at airports, flights canceled at levels never seen before in history. Why? All for what? $1.5 trillion of demands, including free health care for illegal aliens, to bloat the government, to steal from taxpayers, to steal from working Americans. And at the end, after over 40 days, what did they get? Nothing. Defeated, humiliated, disgraced. But in the meantime, they sucked billions of dollars in wealth out of the economy. Think about the contrast, Sean. President Trump bringing trillions of investment into America, giving Americans trillions of dollars in tax cuts. And what did Democrats do in their big moment? They steal hardworking money from our taxpayers, they cancel their flights, and they destroy billions of dollars in economic value. You will not see a clear contrast. The Democrats are the party of destruction. President Trump is leading the party of creation, opportunity, and wealth.
And while we're cleaning up government, we're also cleaning up the massive fraud that's been bleeding taxpayers dry for years. Because one silver lining of all of this, the one good thing to come out of it, is that it forced a conversation about massive fraud inside programs like SNAP. You know, food stamps? That's a conversation that no one wanted to have, even Republicans, but definitely not Democrats. No one wanted to talk about it until now. And now, the Trump administration is rolling out new application programs to ensure that those receiving the benefits actually qualify. Because I know you're shocked. I know you're shocked to hear that there's billions being spent of people that didn't even qualify, that are selling them for other things, just billions out of the taxpayer pockets. And now people are going to have to qualify. And they're going to actually have to be American citizens. Check out just how bad it actually is.
And 20 plus others did not, and we're suing. We're in a litigation right now. But of the 29 that complied, what we have found is staggering. 500,000 people getting benefits 2 times under the same name. 5,000 dead people. 80% of the able-bodied Americans, meaning they can work, they don't have small children at home, they're not taking care of an elderly parent, they can work and they choose not to work, of course, because they're getting significant benefits from the taxpayer. So this light, Laura, that has now been shined on what is perhaps one of the most corrupt, dysfunctional programs in American history, that we are working now. Very big announcements coming next week on this. We are cracking down. We now have a plan to fix it, and we're really, really excited about doing that for the American people.
Guys, that's billions with a B. Billions in fraud. And the Democrats' solution was always just pretend that it didn't exist. I imagine that's because they're Democrat voters. Those are the people probably committing all of the fraud. But here's the thing. This isn't just about food stamps. It's about how so many of these programs and issues have just been on autopilot forever. Right? No one ever thought about cleaning up the fraud, the waste, the abuse, the graft. It's insane. Think about what Democrats have been up to. They're now all of a sudden, magically, like the day after this happened, they're really concerned about Jeffrey Epstein after basically ignoring it for years. And I know many of you are concerned about it, but what did we actually learn from these bombshell emails. You know, everything's a bombshell, right? Remember, it's like the walls are closing in. Bombshell emails. Well, we learned that Epstein pretty much hated my father. That Epstein was texting directly with a Democrat member of Congress during a congressional hearing with Michael Cohen. That the New York Times was actively working with Epstein to flag and suppress stories about him. Epstein hated Trump because he threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. Epstein hated Trump because he knew there was something shady going on, but this was like 30 years ago. He didn't know it was young girls. He just knew he was a creep. Epstein hated Trump because Trump beat him in a real estate deal. So Epstein was doing everything he could to try to take down Trump. So if he had anything real, it would have come out. Not Epstein talking with his Democrat colleagues, trying to give him stuff on unrelated matters, trying to guide the questioning, because in all fairness, the Democrats aren't exactly the sharpest tools in the shed. It's a little different. Strange, no one's talking about that. Even people like one of the victims, whose name was redacted in these emails, even though she's since deceased, who's on record under oath defending Trump, saying he never partook in those things. It's almost like they redacted her name because they wanted to create ambiguity and link Trump to these things. Of course, that didn't work. And then Democrats continued to do their nonsense. Again, guys, they faked a redaction of a victim who publicly testified that my father wasn't involved and couldn't implicate him in any of this stuff. Why would they do that? They're not protecting anyone. She's passed. That's unfortunate. But it's almost like they're weaponizing her to try to create yet another narrative that doesn't exist and never did. And look, guys, I get it. I know we all want to get all the answers we can. Honestly, for a long time, no one was more vocal than me about it. I understand Americans want to make sure we stay on the offense and keep our foot on the gas pedal. But we also can't take the bait on what yet another hoax or what the dirty tricks the Democrats are scheming about next. Okay? We go for it hook, line, and sinker every time. Okay? He's working with the biggest names in Democrat media. The biggest people that were opposing Trump were at his dinners after he was released from prison for being a pedophile. Okay? No one talks about that. Okay? So they try to link him because other people are talking about Trump in emails when he started his political journey with Epstein. But it's pretty clear. There's no love lost between them. They weren't buddies. And if Epstein actually had something, he would have certainly used it to take down Trump in any way, shape, or form. Remember, guys, during the impeachment hoax, the Russia hoax, and every other hoax, we saw the Democrats actively try to distort, conceal, and manipulate evidence to push outright lies and make up nonsense. Just look at the Steele dossier. So let's focus on the facts, and let's focus on the future. A ton has been accomplished in under a year, especially on the border. Just think about what we were dealing with under Biden. We had a literal open border. Anyone could come through. When state police agencies put up fencing and barbed wire, federal guys came in with a forklift and lifted it out of the way to ensure they could get a reliable stream of Democrat voters, meaning dependents, on the rosters. We had record levels of poison flowing across our border in the form of fentanyl. For example, FBI Director Kash Patel just dropped some major news about the fentanyl crisis that the previous administration basically ignored, probably covered up. And now we're righting those wrongs. Check this out.
This is all thanks to President Trump's brave leadership to engage directly with President Xi Jinping and make one of the pillars of his administration defeating the plague of fentanyl and illegal narcotics. And that set in motion the Attorney General to call her counterpart and designate the FBI and myself as the lead to engage and follow up with President Trump's historic engagement with President Xi just a few weeks ago in Korea. And what was accomplished when I went to Beijing was an actual full-out agreement to concretely adhere to the notion that we will not allow fentanyl to pour into the United States of America. But you got to break that down. What does that mean? We know the Mexican drug traffickers are making it, but where are they getting the ingredients? The fentanyl precursors are distributed by and through companies in China. And what they have now done is, pursuant to our agreement, where we asked for all 13 fentanyl precursors to be designated and fully restricted, and a further 7 chemicals to be restricted as well, this effectively shuts off all of the chemicals and ingredients used to make fentanyl. No other president has done this. Thanks to the Department of Justice and the FBI, we were able to get on the ground and get in the room with the Chinese for the first time ever and receive the reception that President Trump created with President Xi. And now tens of thousands of American lives have been saved by one fell swoop thanks to President Trump and this FBI.
100,000 Americans dead from fentanyl every year. 100,000, guys. That's like, 5 baseball stadiums packed to the brim. That's 2 Vietnam wars a year. 2 Vietnams. And Biden want to talk about climate change? And they let China do whatever they wanted, even though a lot of this stuff was coming from China and working with the Mexican cartels? Are you kidding me? And meanwhile, DHS just announced that for the first time in decades, we have negative net migration. That's right. More people are leaving than coming in illegally. This is what happens when you actually enforce the law. This means, guys, we won't have illegals artificially inflating costs by undercutting wages or taking up housing from Americans that drives up rent. Border security is national security. It always has been, it always will be, for as long as time existed. Just because the Democrats didn't want to believe that doesn't still make it true. Border security is also economic security. We're focused on affordability, and immigration policy is a huge part of that. And while the Fed was printing money like it was going out of style under Biden, creating the worst inflation crisis in 40 years, we're getting back to basics. Here's some of the latest numbers from the White House.
On another matter, I want to address the affordability issue that's received a great deal of media attention this past week, which is ironic because it didn't receive that much attention when Joe Biden was here and inflation was at a record high 9%, the worst inflation crisis in modern American history. And President Trump won a landslide election in part to address the affordability issues created by Joe Biden and the Democrats. And that's exactly what President Trump has done since day one of his administration. Since the first day in office and every day since, the Trump administration has taken aggressive action to fix the Biden-created cost of living issues. The notion that the same Democrats who just shut down the federal government to sabotage our economy, rob people of their paychecks, and also helped Joe Biden ratchet up inflation to 9%, are now suddenly affordability champions, that notion is completely absurd. And it's something only the liberal media would have the gall to push. But the reality is that President Trump and his administration have done so much to lower prices and increase the economic prosperity of the American people. And this president and his team of amazing economic advisors are going to keep working on this issue every single day. In less than 10 short months, President Trump signed the largest middle-class tax cuts in American history, including no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security, which will guarantee that next year Americans are going to put more money back into their pockets. The president has completely unleashed American energy dominance to help bring gasoline prices to the lowest in 5 years, and we expect them to continue to decrease And it has also lowered energy costs overall. There is more work to do, but again, the president's deregulatory and pro-American energy agenda is absolutely going to continue to drive down prices. This formula worked in the president's first term, and we expect that it's going to work again. And this is key because we know energy costs are the #1 driver of inflation. Again, just look at what Joe Biden did to our energy industry over the past 4 years of his administration, and look at what happened to inflation as a result. Everything became more expensive. To lower prescription drug prices and healthcare costs, the president has been working around the clock on this issue. He is obsessed with negotiating these good deals on behalf of the American people to bring down pharmaceutical costs and drug costs for Americans. And he has done so on a number of fronts. You have seen him discuss that in the Oval Office several times. To fuel small businesses, lower their costs, and incentivize hiring, the Trump administration has already cut 30 unnecessary regulations for every new one on the books, which we know will save employers and small businesses across the country thousands of dollars in regulatory burdens. All of these pro-Trump policies are working, and they will continue to work. Wages are rising at the fastest pace of the start of a presidential administration in 60 years. The cost of the typical new mortgage is down by nearly $3,000 per year. There's much work to do, and this administration will continue to do it. But President Trump has already made great progress in cleaning up the economic disaster that was created by Joe Biden.
And as I said, guys, I get it. I understand we need to reduce costs. I wish we could do it overnight. But we need to build long-lasting prosperity, not cheap sugar highs like we saw under Obama and Biden. We can't just print money and give a little boost and what. We have to do this and lock it in for the long term. My father's economic policies are actually putting money back in people's pockets, and the biggest gains haven't even been realized yet.
In the prior 4 years, crooked Joe Biden oversaw less than $1 trillion of new investment in the United States. In 9 months, I've secured commitments of over $18 trillion. The stock market has set 40-time all-time record highs, and GDP growth in the second quarter was an amazing almost 4%. In the third quarter, we're on track to achieve an estimated 4.2, maybe more. Gasoline prices have plummeted to the lowest in 2 decades, and we're going to soon see $2 gasoline. The grocery prices are way down, and Walmart just announced that the cost of their standard Thanksgiving meal is 25% lower than 1 year ago. Since March, the price of eggs is down 85%. Energy prices are down, interest rates are down, and the cost of the typical new mortgage is down by nearly $3,000 a year. Day by day, we're making America affordable again.
Every American deserves the chance to be prosperous and independent. And nowhere is this more important than in places the establishment wrote off for decades, like the Rust Belt and Appalachia. J.D. Vance recently talked about this in a very profound way. And honestly, guys, it's worth watching.
You want to talk about like populism, and you want to talk about people being pissed off. Well, yeah, people are pissed off when they don't have good jobs. And people are pissed off when things disappear and move overseas. And people are pissed off when they feel like, you know, other countries are being prioritized over the United States of America. And all of that is part of the populist resentment of the past, 20 or 30 years in American politics. You know what really pisses people off? When they realize that their loved ones are dying much sooner than everybody else. And that is a big part of the story of what's going on in Appalachia and why I think so many people in Appalachia feel left behind. I mean, my story, obviously, it's been, like you said, I'm like the golden boy. Things have just worked out for me in this really incredible way. I feel so lucky and so grateful for it. But I also feel a certain sense of guilt because there are a lot of people who grew up in families like mine who haven't had an easy life and who haven't had all this economic opportunity and who haven't had, a person that they've fallen in love with and they've been able to sort of build a stable, nice family like me and Usha have been able to build. And that gives me a sense of purpose because I want those people to have the same opportunities that I've had. But it also gives me a great sense of anger because we never should have gotten to the point that we are today. And the reason that we have is because of failed leadership, and it's failed leadership over generations. And by the way, you talk about Appalachia, you were talking about people who, though they don't have much, would take the shirt off their back and give it to a complete stranger, because that's what you do. If you go back to America's biggest wars, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, which are the counties that filled their draft quotas with volunteers instead of with draftees? It's very often the parts in deep Appalachia where you've got grinding poverty, but you've also got this incredible love of country. So if any place in this country deserves not to be left behind, it's Appalachia. But on the public health stuff in particular, the numbers don't look good. And it's one of the reasons why I'm such a big supporter of what you're doing, because these are people who deserve to live better, healthier lives, but they really have been left behind by this country's leadership.
I think we're all tired of being lectured by so-called elites on what's best for us. And we're certainly tired of being lectured by European leaders. I feel like they got enough to worry about in their own backyards that they're not dealing with. But we're not going to get lectured by them either on how America can't secure its own borders or defend our own hemisphere. But we need to be totally focused on what's going on. And we have to be focused on Russia and Ukraine. And we need to focus on those things and climate change that even Bill Gates has come out against and said, I guess it's not really the existential crisis to humanity that I thought it was and preached for 20 years. We're not going to be lectured by these people anymore. In fact, Secretary of State Marco Rubio just put the Europeans on notice. No more free rides while American taxpayers foot the bill for their defense. And no more telling us we can't blow up drug boats and we can't secure our own neighborhoods. Check out Marco here in this clip. It's worth the watch.
I don't think that the European Union gets to determine what international law is. No, they certainly don't get to determine is how the United States defends its national security. The United States is under attack from organized criminal narco-terrorists in our hemisphere, and the president is responding in the defense of our country. I do find it interesting that all these countries want us to send, and supply, for example, nuclear-capable Tomahawk missiles to defend Europe. But when the United States positions aircraft carriers in our hemisphere where we live, somehow that's a problem. So I would say that the United States is, and this president has made very clear, his job is to protect the United States from threats against the United States, and that is what he's doing in this operation.
Of course, the regime media, once again, is taking the side of the globalists. I'm shocked. I know you guys weren't expecting that one either. And they're actually defending the drug cartels. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're claiming these strikes are just too tough and too disproportional. And guys, I know that anyone watching has some sort of link, a degree of separation to a loved one, a friend, a colleague, a classmate that's been killed by the scourge of fentanyl coming across our border. But these people think we're too tough on narco-terrorists? Maybe they're fishermen. Yeah, they're not fishermen running from Venezuela with 450 Mercs, 4 of them on the back of a boat, okay? That's a great Miami boat, okay? Not from a communist hellhole like Venezuela. They're not running those kind of boats unless they're really well-funded fishermen, which of course makes them probably not fishermen. It makes them drug traffickers. But thankfully, over at CNN, Scott Jennings delivered a much-needed reality check. These drug dealers are terrorists, and we're going to treat them just like they deserve to be treated.
Is he trying to provoke an armed attack?
I think he would argue we're already under attack. You've got Venezuela that does move drugs into our country, not fentanyl, I agree with you, it's mostly cocaine, but they are part of a narco-terrorist system in our hemisphere that floods our country with drugs, and other countries that are our allies, they flood them with drugs. I agree with Jim. Efforts in the past seem to have not curtailed this. And so, look, he had promised a more muscular response to the international drug trade, particularly in our hemisphere. Now we're getting it. I mean, I guess you could debate the legality of it. I'll tell you the politics of it. It's about a 70-30 issue. The American people have been wanting the government to do something more about the narco-terrorism in our hemisphere, and they're doing it. And so I guess we'll see what the lawyers have to say, but I know what the American people think, and it's like, finally, somebody is taking these narco-terrorists seriously.
Well, you have to be killing narco-terrorists. We don't know who the people are on the boats.
They look like drug boats to me. I don't think these are mild-mannered fishermen.
That seems to be the rationale. They look like drug boats to me. That seems to be as far as we're going with that.
Terrorist designation for cartels is exactly what's needed and long overdue. They're enemy combatants, period. They are a clear and present danger to the United States of America. They're far more of a clear and present danger than any of the crap that we've funneled trillions of dollars to over the last few decades in our never-ending wars. Clearly more of a clear and present danger than Russia or Ukraine. They're killing 100,000 Americans a year. End of story. And if you're looking at what's happening in blue cities, you see what happens when you coddle criminals, when you treat them with kid gloves and pretend that you can virtue signal your way to a better life or tax your way there. It ain't gonna happen, folks. For example, Seattle's socialist mayor just had a complete and total meltdown when confronted with some harsh reality. This, guys, is must-see TV. But unfortunately, it's for all the wrong reasons.
Access to affordable, healthy food is a basic right. We cannot allow giant grocery chains to stomp all over our communities, close stores at will, and leave behind food deserts. Together we can build a Seattle where fresh food is for everyone, not just for those who can afford it. Food deserts are not natural. Corporations create them when they abandon our communities. As mayor, I'm excited to step up and with UFCW explore public option grocery stores to fill those gaps.
And speaking of total incompetence and government fantasies, do you remember a few weeks ago what CCP shills, the shills for the Chinese Communist Party, when they were out there promoting a groundbreaking new bridge in China? Well, check out what happened with their beloved state-of-the-art communist Chinese bridge.
Oh, Chomadillo, Chomadillo.
Yikes. That's a rough one. It opened last week, collapsed this week, but sure, this is what happens when you prioritize propaganda over engineering. It's kind of like what's happening at our own universities. For example, over at UC Berkeley, the lunatics have completely taken over the asylum and are spewing disgusting left-wing violence and putting more conservative lives at risk. Don't believe me? Check it out for yourself. And finally, because it wouldn't be a week in liberal paradise without a corruption scandal, Gavin Newsom's chief of staff just got caught in another alleged massive corruption scheme. The same guys who want to lecture red states about ethics and responsibility seem to behave much differently when they think no one is looking. Take a look.
Not guilty was her plea. Now, this is big news for someone who once held one of the most powerful jobs in Sacramento, and now we're just waiting on Williamson to leave the courthouse here. And actually, here she is live. Here we go, everybody, live on Cron 4. Ms. Williamson, live on Cron 4. Oops, sorry. Any comment?
Should other California officials and people involved in the government be concerned now with this investigation underway?
Do you have any comment, Ms. Williamson?
No, you guys can contact my attorney.
Do you have anything to say at all?
Ms. Williamson, do you have anything to say to Javier Becerra right now? He called this.
Have you been cooperating with prosecutors?
Excuse me.
Ms. Williamson, you have nothing to say with the 23 counts against you.
Do you have your side of the story you would like to share with Cron 4 viewers? Do you have your side of the story you'd like to share with the viewers at home? And Justine, we're watching this live. There you have Governor Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff getting into a car here outside of the federal courthouse in Sacramento. And there she goes. You can see it's a media scrum out here, Justine. This all happening live here on Cron 4. Again, that's Dana Williamson, former Chief of Staff to Governor Gavin Newsom. They're answering my questions. She said if we could speak to her attorneys, that's how we will hear. But we should tell you that her attorneys earlier said they had no comment on this. And there you can see the car driving away there as we're live here on Cron 4. Now, a little bit about this, Justine.
The California model. Homeless encampments, $7 gas, rolling blackouts, fires that are really preventable, especially if you just tapped into, I don't know, the Pacific Ocean about 5 yards away from where they're going on. And good old-fashioned corruption, folks. But remember, they're the ones who are going to save democracy. Give me a break. Look, here's the bottom line. And this is what the establishment doesn't want you to understand. We're witnessing a complete realignment of American politics. It's not Democrat versus Republican anymore. It's the America First movement versus the globalist uniparty. It's the workers versus welfare recipients. It's builders versus bureaucrats. The Trump administration isn't just changing policy, they're changing the entire conversation. We're not apologizing for America anymore. We're not bowing to Europe or kowtowing to China or ignoring the cartels. We're putting Americans first, and the results speak for themselves. Secure borders beat open borders. Law and order beats defund the police. Energy dominance beats Green New Deal poverty. And America First beats globalism every single time. Okay? I know we shouldn't even have to have this conversation. I know this is common sense to all of you. I know you guys all understand it, but it didn't matter. When they had the narrative out there, when they controlled the media, when they controlled social, when they controlled every mechanism and were able to censor the obvious truth, they still got their way. But it's because of you guys that won't happen anymore. And it's again why I ask you guys to make sure you share these things so people see it. Like, share, subscribe, download the Rumble app, get it out there, make sure people see it, okay? We've made one hell of a comeback, okay? But there's a lot left to achieve. There's a lot of nefarious forces still out there trying to suppress you, trying to censor you. So you guys have to be part of that line of defense in getting this all out there. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Remember again, like, share, subscribe. Check out our amazing sponsors down below in the video description. Okay, it matters. They have the guts to support this kind of programming. That's not easy. There's ramifications. Get out there and support them. So thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you all again very soon.